Today we are talking about travel anxiety. I have it. I take great pains to try to mitigate it, and I hope that this video will help you, if you struggle with travel anxiety, to just kind of quell your fears and get out there and enjoy traveling this beautiful world that we have out there waiting for us. So if you're new, hey, I'm Jen, and I talk on this channel all about travel organization, home organization. If you like those kinds of videos, please subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And if you like this video, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up. So my history with travel anxiety goes all the way back. I think the first time I remember having it, I was 3. My dad was a commercial airline pilot. I've been flying all over the world my whole life. And I need to be clear with you that I am not afraid of flying. My husband is also a commercial airline pilot. In fact, right now he's international somewhere. Little pro tip, we hardly ever know where they are, us airline pilot spouses. And flying is not the issue for me. It's all of the other things, right? It's all of the logistics around travel. It's the days leading up to travel. And a lot of you are probably thinking, if you have travel anxiety, why do you do it so much? And I think part of me, maybe I do it so much because I have anxiety around it. And it's one of those things that I would love to conquer. And I love sharing tips and tricks with you guys because these are things that I have done over and over the last however many decades of my life. 5. There's been 5 decades of my life. And I've perfected them because I get so anxious. Now, all of these tips and tricks have not cured my travel anxiety. We just got back from a week in California, and I definitely had anxiety. I had stress dreams leading up to the trip. I was stressed many days prior to the trip. I was stressed the day of the trip. I didn't sleep the night before the trip. That's not unusual. I never do. And I had anxiety at the end of the trip prepping to come home, although that is less stressful for me than the stress that I will get going into the trip. But I practiced everything that I'm going to tell you guys about today just in the last couple of weeks. So it's all top of mind. It's all very fresh. And in sharing it, I hope I will give you some tips and tricks to help you, but also help you not feel alone if you suffer from travel anxiety. And most importantly, help you get out there and do it anyway. So the number one thing that I do, and I'm going to call this whole section travel hygiene, and I totally ripped this off from people that talk about sleep hygiene. It's like how you set yourself up to have a good night's sleep. That's what we're talking about here. There are so many things you don't have control over, especially in recent days and everything that's gone on and changes in rules and regulations. But there are quite a few things you do have control over. And the number one thing that I do is I plan. The logistics of my trips are so meticulously planned. It is just this short of a military operation. I also come from a military family, so I know of what I speak. I print everything out because I don't rely on technology. I double, triple, and quadruple check flights, hotel reservations, tickets that I might need. You name it, I have it, and I probably have it in multiple forms. I will have copies of all of my documentation in multiple bags in case my bags get lost. I want to make sure I'm okay. I will also have digital copies of everything in my phone. I will have copies that I have emailed to people that I'm not even traveling with. So in case I lose my phone, I can call them and be like, hey, I emailed this to you. You have it. Is it overkill? Oh, it 100% is overkill. My husband laughs at me on the daily because I'm like this, but he's also learned to accept the fact that me doing all of this over planning is what helps me to calm down and not have my anxiety be as bad. Now, when my anxiety is really bad, because some of you are like, how do I know if I have travel anxiety? I will get myself worked up to the point of being physically ill. So, and that's not new. That's been happening my whole life about a whole bunch of different things, but particularly around travel and anything regarding logistics. This is just something that happens to me. And after 5 decades of coping with it, I'm beginning to doubt that it's ever going to go away. But, you know, I am helping myself, and obviously I'm still getting out there and I'm still traveling. So when you are over planning, there may be people in your life, as my husband used to be, that will be like, oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, you don't need to do that. Why do you get so stressed out? And I find it's really helpful to just share with them prior to the frenzy of getting ready for the trip, listen, I'm going to be really vulnerable with you. I have travel anxiety, and over planning helps quell my fears. So even though it may seem ridiculous to you, if you can indulge me, because it really does help me have a better trip. Now, if the person hearing this does not accept that with grace and love and kindness, kind of don't know why you're traveling with them. So that's for you to think through. But yeah, number one tip, over plan. My number two tip is I clear my schedule as much as possible the days leading up to a trip and then a day after. And I talked about this a little bit in my video about how not to ruin your vacation. I'll link that right up here if you're interested in watching that. But you know how things just kind of tend to snowball in the days before a trip? I try to clear out anything unnecessary. I actually broke my own rule this last time. I had a dental appointment the day before the trip. Should not have gone. Totally should have rescheduled it. But I try to just eliminate unnecessary things so that the days leading up to the trip can be freed up for me to do whatever it is I need to do. To pack, unpack, and repack if that's what makes me feel better. To check the weather 15 times. To double check all the reservations. Going back to point number one with the over planning. But by giving myself some space and margin the few days before the trip, I am a lot more calm. Now, if you are taking vacation time, and this was me the bulk of, my whole 25-year career, you may not be able to not work the days leading up to the trip, but you could look at your schedule and shift things around that are more stressful. See if you can reschedule that client. See if that budget meeting can be rescheduled. Maybe it can't, but it never hurts to ask. There should be a few things that you can cancel, shift. I would say the same is true for, kids' appointments, things like that. Try to clear your schedule. Try to create as much margin as you can so that you can be as prepared as possible for the trip. Okay, so in addition to over planning, creating margin before the trip, the third thing that I do is I really give myself plenty of time to pack. Again, you can go watch my packing videos to really see what that looks like. But especially if you have anxiety the night before the trip, that is not the time you want to be packing. I will start planning out what I'm going to wear and what I'm going to take weeks in advance. I will start setting things aside. I will really start thinking through, what do I need to purchase? What am I going to purchase once I get there? I will use the Notes app on my phone religiously to do grocery lists for when we get there. Maybe I'm going to do an Amazon Prime order or a shipped order delivered to the hotel or to the beach house or whatever it may be. I have all of those things thought through, and I'm not waiting until the day before. Because if I wait until the last minute, that just creates more anxiety. And when you already are suffering from anxiety, the last thing you need is a clock going off that makes you really anxious because that trip is coming up and you don't have enough time to get everything done. So definitely start several days, if not a week or two before, depending on your level of anxiety, getting ready for the trip and ensuring that you're not having to run to Target at 11 o'clock before the trip for this thing you absolutely had to have. Do everything well in advance and it will really lessen your anxiety. At least it does mine. All right, now let's talk about day of travel. What are things I do to practice good travel hygiene? Obviously, and I'm hoping that this is obvious to you guys, get to the airport early. We all know travel delays are an inevitability, and I honestly don't think there's anything worse, and I see it all the time, than waiting in line for security and being concerned you're not going to make it to the gate on time. I would always rather be sitting at the gate an hour early than be standing in the TSA line freaking out that I'm not going to make my flight. Whatever time you think you need to leave for the airport, leave 30 minutes earlier. And this is another thing I've had to negotiate with my professional airline pilot when we travel together, because he always thinks I need to get to the airport way too early. And just turn it around and put it on you. Be like, I get you non-anxiety suffering person that you're fine with getting to the airport an hour early. I'm not. And if you want me to be happy and you want me to be in a good mood, it's really important to me that we get there at least 2 hours prior. To be honest, we fly in and out of Hartsfield Jackson. If you've ever been there, you know 2.5 makes me really happy. But just making sure that something like a long TSA line isn't going to derail my entire day. And if I need to then, go have an extra cup of coffee, and it's okay that I had to wait in line for it because I have plenty of time, that's all right by me. That's kind of like my gift to myself as I start my vacation, is leaving myself plenty of time when I get to the airport. So even getting on the airplane, I will have a lot of anxiety. And one of the main stressors for me with anxiety was I had this weird thing where I was always not knowing where something was. My ID, we take public transportation, so my MARTA card, my phone, rifling through my bag looking for things. I now travel with a crossbody that has in it my essentials, and that is on my person. For you, it could be a bum bag, it could be anything that you're actually physically wearing, because I don't like to be rifling through a bag. The other thing is, every time you touch something, put it back in its designated spot. What I find happens a lot is people take their ID out to show to TSA, and then they're rushed to get their stuff onto the conveyor belt to go through the x-ray machine, and they stick that ID somewhere and then they don't remember where they put it. So actually designating a slot, a pocket, if you travel with your wallet, making sure you physically put it back in your wallet. You have time to do that. If you need to step out of line for a second in order to sort yourself out, I feel like when we get up to security, we've waited in the TSA pre-check line, they've checked our ID, they've checked our boarding pass. There's this like really stressful moment where everybody is rushing to try to get their stuff onto the belt and to go through security. Just slow your roll, take a breath, because that 30 seconds, and it's probably not even going to be 30 seconds, it's probably going to be 15 seconds, that you wait a beat and you carefully take that ID, put it back where it goes, put your phone in the slot where it goes, because of course that's going to need to go on the conveyor belt into the x-ray machine, and just take a breath. Will save you potentially 15, 20, 30 minutes later if you're rifling around or in a panic because you can't find that thing that you absolutely need. So really just be methodical, be very well planned on where everything goes, and only have one home for your license, your phone, all of the things that you're gonna need. Know where it is and don't make an exception. Don't stick it somewhere else just that one time, because I promise you won't remember where you put it, and either you or your spouse is gonna be in a panic looking for something that they can't find. Okay, now on the flight itself, because I'm still anxious, even once I'm on the airplane, still got anxiety going on, because usually once I get to my destination, I've got to go to the rental car counter and I've got to figure out how, am I meeting my ride? Am I getting to the hotel? How does that all work? We're going to talk about that in just a second. On the flight itself, I always use my Apple AirPods, the noise canceling Pro ones. Now, if you're like, except for I want to watch the in-flight entertainment, I've shown you guys this product before. It's called AirFly. It plugs right into the in-flight entertainment and allows you to use your AirPod Pros noise canceling or whatever Bluetooth noise canceling headphones you have with the in-flight entertainment. You can also travel with, the large noise canceling headphones. I had those for years. But the noise on an airplane really heightens my stress. And for years, I didn't use noise canceling on airplanes. And boy, oh boy, once I started doing it, completely changed how I felt during the flight. Another thing I do, and this might sound kind of dumb, but I plan out like my potty breaks and what I'm going to eat and drink on the airplane. There are certain foods that I know are not good for me. I never drink on flights, even if it's international. Alcohol and flying and jet lag are not a good mix, in my opinion. So I really stick to water or juice or coffee. I have my little routine. I know exactly what I like. I know what I like in the in-flight entertainment. This helps if you always fly the same airline as I do. But yeah, just have a little routine for in the flight. flight, have an idea of, when I sit down, I'm looking at not only where the emergency exits are, which is extremely important, but I'm also looking at where's the restroom? What's the situation with the people next to me? Don't wait until you really, really have to go to get up and go to the restroom. What's going on with the seatbelt sign? Like, I am basically scanning the interior of the airplane the entire flight if I'm not taking a little snooze or watching something that's really good, to make sure that I know what's going on around me. And that might seem more anxious, like, why don't you just check out? Most of us that struggle with anxiety also struggle with lack of control. So by being aware of what's going on around me, I feel more in control. So that's just the way I am. Another thing I do that really helps, and I've talked about this with you guys so many times on the channel, so forgive me if you've heard it a million times, but I have a small cabin bag. And what I mean by that is I have a small zippered pouch that has in it everything that I might possibly need for during the flight. So this is the pouch that's going to contain my AirPods, my AirFly, my charger, my chapstick, a small thing of lotion, ladies, if you need any feminine hygiene products during the flight, my lipstick, just a tiny little bag that is super easy for me to grab and go to the restroom, or to have in a place where I'm not, again, rifling through my bag that's under the seat in front of me to grab it. It just gives me a lot of peace of mind. And this is also a good time to talk about any comfort items that you might like. Now, try to stay away from anything that's heavily scented, but if there is a lotion you really like, if some of you like to do like the water on your face, be cautious of your neighbor, but if you have a little spray bottle of that, if there's a moisturizer that you like, things that will make you more comfortable. Maybe it's a particular scarf that you like that's really cozy, or a blanket or a sweater, something along those lines. I think most of you know by now, if you've flown at all, that airplanes can be absolutely freezing cold. So make sure you have some kind of comfort item just to make you feel a little warm and cozy. But yeah, plan that out in terms of what's in your bag. You really don't want those comfort items to be up in the overhead, because that's going to be a big hassle to get to. And if the captain has the fastened seatbelt sign on, you're not going to be able to get up there at all. So make sure you have everything you need right there at your fingertips. All right, now when you land, let's talk about when you land. Can we talk for a minute about my least favorite part of every single flight? I cannot even tell you. Like, I start to get anxious about it before we even land. The whole hopping up out of your seat the second that the airplane touches gets to the jetway, and thinking that you have to be the first one off the plane. I just cannot with that. And I also cannot with people behind me that don't understand how to be polite when getting off an airplane. So I just want to go on record as saying, if you have a connection, that's different, okay? I'm very much willing to allow you to be that way if you have a connection. If you don't, just sit down, or just at least breathe a minute, because I can't tell you how many times I have been trying to get my bag out of the overhead, and the person behind me is doing this, like completely unnecessarily. I promise I am moving my body as efficiently as I can without hurting myself. And the extra 6 seconds that you're going to have to wait for me to safely get my bag down and situate myself so I can get off the airplane, you're going to be okay. So I would say to everyone that's in such a rush when you get off the airplane, slow down. You're not going to save that much time, and you're stressing everyone else out. And I would say to those of us that feel pressured and stressed out by those people, just don't. Let them have their temper tantrum. Let them have their conniption fit, whatever they want to do. You take the time that you need to effectively get off the airplane, and just don't worry about them. They're going to be fine. They'll get over it. All right, so once you get to your destination, what can you do now to lower your stress? Now, this is one of the reasons why I pay a lot of extra money for ground transportation, especially if I'm going to a place I haven't been before, to be met at baggage claim. Most services will have an extra charge to do this if you're using a private town car. But for someone that's an anxious traveler, the last thing I want to do is be looking for the Lyft or Uber stand at that particular airport that I've never been to, and I don't know what the procedure is and all the things. Having someone meet me at baggage claim completely changes the game and allows me to just take a deep breath. Now, if it's a good company, they are checking your flight. They know if it's late. They know if you're flying internationally. friendly. They're usually prepared for how long customs should take you, all of those kinds of things. And yeah, it's one of those times where if I can spend a little bit of extra money and greatly lower my stress, it's a game changer. If not, though, make sure you have everything that you'll need for your ground transportation readily available for as soon as you get off the plane. So a lot of the rental car agencies now have apps. That's really helpful. Again, I will still have everything printed out in a paper copy in case your technology should fail you. Sometimes the rental car company's technology will go down, and fate favors the ones who print things out. That's what I to say about that. There's been multiple times where I rely on my technology a lot, but I always have a backup just in case, because even if it's just a few minutes, that added stress of, oh my God, the app isn't working or they can't find my reservation. If you have it in print, it's kind of how cash is king, right? If you have it printed out, that will really, really help lower your stress. So you've done all the things, you've checked into your hotel. I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of me because we have gotten to our destination, whether that be a work trip or a vacation trip. We've gotten there in one piece. And then there's one more thing I want you to do. Once you get to your hotel, I want you to get a drink of your choice. Maybe depending on the trip, maybe it's an alcoholic beverage, maybe it's a coffee, it's a tea, it's a water. And I just want you to take a minute, because it doesn't matter if it was a 2-hour flight or a 4-hour flight or a 6-hour flight or a 12-hour flight. You've had a day and you need to just pause. Just make sure you've got everything. Drink that coffee or glass of wine, soak it all in, and give yourself a huge pat on the back, because even though you suffer from travel anxiety, guess what? You still did it, and you have a great adventure ahead. I hope you loved this video. Thank you so much for being here. Your support of my channel means the world to me. Over half of you that watch, however, are not subscribed. So if you regularly watch and you haven't subscribed yet, please make today the day that you do that. It would mean so much to me. I cannot even tell you. And whatever you're doing today, I hope you're finding joy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.